I wanted to walk into the room, hit some switches, and all the lights come on. Welcome to my brand new home studio here in Columbus, Ohio, that I built to be a stay-at-home dad. As a new dad, my goal is to fit the business around my life and not my life around the business. So I spent several months and more than $42,000 to build this in my basement. And in this video, I'm gonna walk you through the design and tech decisions we made to make this studio as functional as possible, starting with the design. I started recording this podcast more than 5 years ago when I lived alone in a 600 square foot apartment in downtown Columbus. It was noisy. Every shot had my bed in it. It wasn't great, but it was what I had. Eventually I moved in with my then girlfriend, who became my fiance, who is now my wife. But our first home together, I was recording in a guest bedroom, and then another guest bedroom. And when we finally moved into this house, once again, I was recording in a guest bedroom. And again, it was fine, but I always wanted like a dedicated studio. The thing is, a lot of people in the space, they are recording in person in these like purpose-built, beautiful studios that I don't have access to. I don't really want to record in those spaces, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to interview a lot of the same people, but I don't have all the advantages those people have. So what are the choices? The choices are that I could move to a different city. I could travel a lot, like fly into a place, set up a studio, fly out, but it just didn't really align with my lifestyle or my goals. I want to be a stay-at-home dad. I want to be with my wife. I want to be with my daughter. I don't want to try to fit their lifestyle around my business. And so the choices, were kind of made for me that the podcast is going to be remote. So when we bought this house about 2 years ago, I knew there was an unfinished basement, and eventually that space could be the studio. I really wanted a studio that reflected my personality, reflected the channel. I realized one big limitation that I had was everything looked the same. I'm not great with cameras, and so I've always tried to reduce friction by putting a camera in one spot and leaving it there. And so for this new space, I wanted to have at least 2 different scenes, we'll call it, so that my videos could have some differentiation. And that came into the process when I hired Kevin Shen's team. Kevin Shen is this fantastic studio designer. He has a team now, and they come in early in the process, really get a sense for your vision for the studio and help make it a reality. When I first got in touch with Kevin's team, the basement was unfinished. I had to sketch out for them how big the space was and what I was trying to accomplish. And if we look at the final product versus their 3D model, it's right on. I was trying to capture a 90s nostalgia aesthetic because I grew up in the 90s. When I think about my childhood and the great memories from it, they were all in basements and attics playing video games with my friends. Growing up, I thought I would be a video game designer, actually. I wanted this space to reflect me and my personality. The brand as a whole reflects me and my personality. So if you look at this shot was meant to be the 90s basement shot. We got this chunky CRT TV that I had to buy on Facebook Marketplace. We have the literal gaming consoles that I grew up with. This GameCube I had to earn by planting trees on the property and getting paid 10 cents per tree from my dad. We have a Game Boy Color. These are how I spent my time, and this is what the space looked like. I feel like every basement in the 90s had this wood paneling. We had to go to Home Depot, and fits exactly my memory. But we have a second view here where the straight on view, we think of the podcast as conversational education, and we wanted this to feel subtly like a bit of a classroom without seeming boring or whatever. My parents are actually both teachers growing up, so education was a big part of my life. The chalkboard is obvious, the lockers, but the lockers are also very, very functional. I can open them up and actually store things. Part of it is design. This locker, when it's open, will show you the high school athlete part of my history, but also below that, I have shelves. What was most important to me was that this space was easy for me to just sit down and do my work, which may be recording some days, maybe video calls other days, maybe just writing other days. It all starts with the desk, actually, which my dad made for me. And this desk was really fun because now that I've worked with a lot of technology, I know how important it is that things can be mounted to the desk. So when I sit here, all of this just plugs into a single USB-C into my computer, and it's ready to go. Audio, video, everything. So in front of me, my main podcast microphone is a Shure SM7DB, which is basically the Shure SM7B, but it has a preamp built into it, and it feeds around the desk over to a Rodecaster Duo. And all of this is attached to an ATEM Mini Pro ISO so that I can shift back and forth between views at the touch of a button. So that's where this fantastic sound is coming from. But I also have an overhead mic so that I can get this out of my face if I find like it's coming between me and a client call or something. So at the touch of a button, I can switch over to the boom microphone, which is a Sennheiser MKE 600. I can speak to a client on a Zoom call or record a video for my community and not feel like I have something between us. And what I wanted to be able to do is basically sit down, hit record, know that the video looks good, that the audio sounds good, and that's what this space has accomplished for me. All of it feeds into a Cal Digit TS4, which is like a single powered external USB hub. All these things feed into my computer with a single USB-C, including 2.5 gigabyte fiber internet that goes in the Cal Digit as well. My laptop is here under the camera because I can push it back underneath the teleprompter and out of the way, but it's, you know, right here. Now let's talk about cameras. We have a 3-camera setup, which is not obvious. I've showed you the 2 views, but we also have a top-down view so that I can do some real-time whiteboarding and show people, both for YouTube and on client calls, a visual representation of what I'm thinking. So this main camera is a Sony FX3. This is part of their cinema line. We wanted to use that so we can add some custom LUTs. It's using a Sigma 24mm art lens. Both these cameras are using a Sigma 24mm art lens. The camera on my right is a Sony FX30. So still part of the cinema line, not quite as beefed up as the FX3, but still very, very powerful. And the top-down shot is a Sony Alpha 7C, which is what I was using on this channel up until we built this studio space. Next, we'll talk about lights. My big thing with the lights was basically, I wanted to walk into the room, hit some switches, and all the lights come on. In my previous studio, I had to manually, individually turn on all these lights, and this is a much simpler setup. So it starts with the key light on my right here, which is an Amaron 100X. That is lighting me as the subject, but we have a lot more lights involved here. We have a fill light, which is hitting the ceiling. We left the ceiling white because being able to shine a light on it casts a bunch of light downwards. So our fill light, along with the hair light behind me, are Amaron 60Xs. And then over my shoulders here, you see some accent lights with these lamps. We're using Philips Hue bulbs in those so we can control the warmth, the temperature, everything from brightness. Philips Hue bulbs are pretty great. One of the most important and underappreciated aspects of any studio is sound treatment. When you have a really high quality microphone like this one right in front of you, sound treatment matters a little bit less because there's basically no space between your voice and the device capturing it. Sound treatment matters because if I speak more loudly, you start to hear the room noise. So what you want are pieces of the space that absorb noise. Things that do this really well are curtains, couches, carpet. So what we do have here is a rug on the floor, and we've tried to add some elements of sound capture around the walls as well. We have a lot of foam panels, and honestly, I think these foam panels are really overrated. What you really want, if you're going to put sound treatment on the walls, are to create your own sound panels. And there's a specific type of Owens Corning fiberglass material that you basically put inside of a frame built with 2x4s and fabric that are the best sound treatment options. But basically, the more stuff you have in your space, the more it's gonna be sound treated naturally. When you have a bunch of hard reflective surfaces, that's when this matters. And in this room, we have a lot of hard reflective surfaces. One more thing we did for sound treatment, we chose not to install overhead lights because what we were told was there can be sound leakage through the ceiling, through the holes that house overhead lights. And because a lot of walking happens above me, our kitchen is above me, our laundry room is above me, to minimize the sound coming downstairs, we just didn't put any overhead lights in the ceiling of this room. We made no holes in the ceiling, which is another reason why we wanted to have the lights on switches so I could walk into this dark room and turn the lights on right away. At the end of the day, I now have a world-class studio that I can access anytime just by going down a couple of flights of stairs. I can literally roll out of bed, get my daughter out of bed, make sure she's taken care of, and start my day in a matter of minutes. I don't have to commute anywhere. I don't have to compromise on the production quality. And I can even just fit this into small pockets throughout the day. There's so little friction in my workflow to record or take client calls or make videos for the community. And that's exactly what I was trying to accomplish. I want to give a special shout out to Kevin Shen and his team. I could have spent weeks trying to research all of the gear and trying to make these decisions myself, but hiring someone else who really knows this stuff well ultimately gave me a better product in a shorter period of time, and I couldn't recommend that more highly. If you want to see me put the studio into work, watch this interview I recently did here in the space with Colin and Samir.